Welcome back to the channel. My name is Brad, and today we're going to talk about a new CLO that's out on the market you might be interested in. If that's what you're looking for, stick around. So my name is Brad, and I look at all kinds of different things out there, and I use 5 pillars. One of them is CLO. That is collateralized loan obligation, not a CDO that you may get a little negativity about. This is a CLO, and we're going to talk about a new one today. If you've seen my whole speech about CLOs, go ahead and skip forward. But if you haven't seen the speech or you want to hear a little the speech over again, stick around. A CLO is a collateralized loan obligation. It is a senior secured loan. So it is at the top of the corporate structure. Company may go bankrupt or go out of business. This is the top. So they actually have a chance of getting their money back. That's no guarantee, but they might have a chance. So in the corporate structure, it's a senior secure loan, and they're rated at AAA, AA, single A, triple Bs, double Bs for what is known as the debt tranche. Equity tranche is everything below. The payments start at the top and they work their ways down. The losses start at the bottom and work their way up. That's how it's structured in this fund. And you can see that, hey, 60%, 65% are triple A's, and only 4 to 6% are double B's. So you can see that actual CLO is constructed. Now, keep in mind, this is leveraged. So there's leverage there, 50 times leverage on these funds. So it's a leveraged play. Generally speaking, it's a secure overnight financing rate. And then we're going to get something on top of that in our percentages. A double B, we might get 8 points. These spreads have been getting smaller over time. So it's important to understand that. And again, there's the difference between a debt tranche and an equity tranche. And today, in video, we're going to talk about something that covers the complete debt tranche. And that's different than before. So there's other funds like JAAA or PAAA or Clause or JBB. So there's all these funds out there that are focused on different parts of that debt tranche. And what caught my eye with PMCC, when a viewer, and thank you to that viewer for pointing this out to me, it holds all of them. Triple A's, double A's, single A's, triple B's, double B. And that's interesting because this is the first one I've ran into that is structured so it can hold all of them and not just double A's through double B's or triple A's. It goes all across the board. So this is the first one that's all inclusive that goes across the board. Now, I am personally not buying this fund. You can. It's early in the fund's life. They're still working things out. You're going to see some NAV appreciation during this time. So this might be something that you get into because you're going to see that NAV appreciation. And once it gets a little bit more mature, you'll start to see the sawtooth, right? But right now, it's not mature enough for you to see the sawtooth. So still a little holding back. Not concerned, something to think about. Usually after 3 or 4 months, you'll start to see the sawtooth. After 3 or 4 months, that's when you might want to start to go ahead and buy in because you're now getting into it. And there's another thing about being in an ETF instead of a closed-end fund. With an ETF, when you have redemptions, you might have to sell some of these loans. And that's not what we want to get into. We don't want a whole lot of these loans to be sold, but that's what happens with an ETF when you have a withdrawal from it. With a closed-end fund, it's slightly different. But since it has no equity tranche, I'm okay with it being an ETF. Let's get farther into the details because you might want to hear about it. The expense ratio is 0.68. That's about even for most of these CLO ETFs. Yield to maturity is 8.25, and the 30-day SEC yield is 7.25. 2-1. Now you got to keep these yields all together. Yield to maturity, yield to call, current yield, other yields. So you're going to see yields go up and down slowly, especially as this is a newer fund. And so what happens is if they're not buying on the secondary market and they're buying on the primary market, the primary market may not pay immediately when they buy it. So they'll buy something and then it won't start paying for 2 to 3, 4 months. And that's where you get into, is it paying, not paying? It's going up in fund and assets under management. How come my distribution rate is going down? Like, what's going on? Because CLOs may take a time before they start paying once they become mature enough to pay distributions. So you're going to see varying different rates across the board. And you've seen that with JAAA, you've seen that with JBBB, you've seen that with clause. So anybody that's been around these ETFs, you're seeing that. You can see that they buy a newer loan, and the loan doesn't pay for 2 months. So they have the loan on the book, but it's not paying. And people go, the distributions went down this month, the distributions went up this month, the distribution. It's part of the game. It's just part of the game. Everybody thinks that I buy that loan should pay me tomorrow. They're thinking I want a weekly payer. These things take months to mature to get your payments. So let's relax. Let's not get excited. Let's just stay the course and look at the loans as they come in to see if you want to get into them or not. The effective duration is only 0.19. The adjusted spread is 344. Keeping in mind, now you're seeing the spread over the secure overnight fund rate. They have 43 different securities. Their average is an A rating. So that's from AAA to BBs, the average would be an A. That seems about right. So they invest in private equity CLOs. They don't have any bank loans. They have a broadly syndicated CLO, and they have some cash on hand. I'd like to see that cash on hand slightly larger, just so the ETF has the ability to get in and out as you have redemptions, but it's a newer fund. Somebody's always concerned about, oh, these have so many CLOs in foreign countries. According to the website, 96% of the loans are based right here in the United States. So they're not all over the world and every place else. They are right here in the United States. There is some Canada, but that's the 51st state. Sorry. If you've been watching the channel, I joke about that a lot. It's not the 51st state, but it could be. United Kingdom, I didn't know they were for sale. Maybe they become the 51st state. That's not going to happen either. But anyway, enough of the jokes. We're going to move on. If I look at the sectors, software sector, healthcare sector, professional services, insurance. So it's very broadly based on everything that they have and not focus on one sector. Of course, software is a little bit higher than the rest of them, but a lot of times that is what you see with CLOs. If you look at the performance since inception, you can see, hey, it goes up nice and steady to the right. I'm going to just remind you, this is a newer CLO. You're going to see that because that is how they start collecting their premiums, and then they pay out their premiums, and that's when you start to see the saw. Until we start seeing the saw and the sawtooth, then we're going to be going up and to the right, and then you're going to start to see the sawtooth effect. But the first two distributions were not bad whatsoever, right around that 7% range. And that's probably what we can probably expect, somewhere between 7 and 9% out of this over time. We'll see how this works out with how it comes in and how the fund actually buys their CLOs and see what their average payment is over time. The last thing I want to talk to you about is the fund manager. And I normally don't look too much at the fund managers. I normally assume that they're professionals, but I'm going to go ahead and look at the fund manager. I first say, oh, wait a second, where did he come from? He came from BlackRock and then State Street Global Advisors. And what I can tell you about those two, yeah, he's probably fairly smart. So he came from BlackRock. That's okay. State Street, they have a great name on the market. And all I want to say is, hey, the guy's probably been around for a few years and he's been involved in this. So I'm not overly worried about their expertise in CLOs. But hey, it's a newer fund. It's an ETF. And maybe you're interested in it. Maybe you're not. Maybe we should be watching it. I did add this to my watch list. I still hold my JAAA and my JBBB, and I hold my claws, but I'm holding all these funds where this one is a mixture of all of them together. So hopefully you find this entertaining, and until next time, God bless. Or JPP, or JP, or JBB.